Hey, everybody. Welcome to my little music corner of the world. My name is John Clauser, and tonight is a special night. I've got me a little bit of a roundtable discussion going on here. We are going to be talking about, I'm going to guess you may have figured it out by some of our t-shirts and our backgrounds, Iron Maiden. And this topic today is going to be Iron Maiden album openers. So whether it's Future Real, whether it's If Eternity Should Fail, or whether it's Tail Gunner, whatever your favorites might be, we're going to talk about them tonight. So each one of these guys we're going to do 3 favorites and maybe a couple honorable mentions at the end. So let me introduce the cast of characters here to you. So I'm going to go by how I see it on my screen. We got Ben Carson and John Atkins. We got Ryan Gavalier from Ryan's Vinyl Destination. We got Ryan Murphy from Rush Fans. We got my cousin-in-law, Jim Morris. Good to see you, brother. And finally, happy belated Canada Day from all the way up in Canada, Roger Serreras. How you doing, brother? You're on mute. So good to salute there. So with that, I'm going to throw this to Ben because this was his baby. He presented it to me and decided to present it to whoever I wanted to throw on to this. So take it away, Ben, and we're going to lead it off with you and John first.
All right, thanks, John. First off, thank you for putting all this together. Just a wild idea I wanted to do. Originally was going to go for top 5, but for the sake of time, we whittled it down to top 3. And for my number 3, I think I'm going to have to go with Where Eagles Dare from the Peace of Mind album, simply for the drum intro. It's the first album to feature Nico McBrain on drums. And what better way to make a statement with an entire album to showcase your new drummer than by having him hit the most impossible drum lick known to mankind. And it's a powerful song. It's a great song. It's based off of a Clint Eastwood movie called Where Eagles Dare, where they're trying to storm a castle in a World War I, I believe. Great song. Bruce's vocals on it are insane. The machine gun sound effects during the drum solo are really cool. Everything about that song to me is just, it screams opener. And for the rest of the Peace of Mind album, it nails it to me. And to have that stop and then immediately slow down a little bit into Revelations, just perfect mesh to me. So number 3 for me, Where Eagles Dare from Peace of Mind.
Cool. Good start. Good start. John, what you got?
Like I said, I had a top 5, but it's cool. I can do my top 3. My top 3, I feel like can kind of change any given day. I love these 3 tracks equally. But I'm going to kick off with Wicker Man from Brave New World. I mean, Bruce and Adrian back in the band. Great track. What notes I've got down? One of my favorite Adrian solos. I think it's one of his best. I like the riff to it. The chorus, I like the chorus well. It gets repetitive. It's your time will come over and over. But it's the music behind it is catchy enough where you can kind of gloss over that it's just the same words over and over. And there's a rare, is it like a single?
It was a radio single release.
Yeah, that had that said your time will come, but it had Bruce back and that was it Thy Will Be Done. Mm-hmm. And it just, I liked, I don't know why that never went out further than just a radio single. Like me personally, I would love to find have that as an audio file as well, because I like that.
Legend has it that Steve didn't like the call and response of the chorus, so they scrapped it after that.
Oh, okay.
It was released prior to the album coming out, and he said it was too much going on at once, so he scrapped it.
I can see that. Yeah. But for me, like I said, it's a great start to the album. And it's off of, like I said, Brave New World, which is if I'm not mistaken, I think I have, Min and I have done where we ranked the albums ourselves, and I think I put this at my second favorite Maiden album. I love this whole album. It's full of great songwriting, and it's just, I don't know, it's just something about it just speaks to me. Every track, I basically call it a perfect album. To me, it's a perfect album.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, yeah. So.
All right. Another solid start. Ryan, what you got, brother? Ryan G, that is.
All right, thank you, John. So basically, when I was coming up with these, I listened through all these tracks multiple times, kind of put aside any biases, of what albums I liked the best. I kind of went into this with an open mind of, I'm just looking at these individual songs here. So for my number 3, I chose Tail Gunner from No Prayer for the Dying. Not one of my favorite Maiden albums, I'm going to say right off the bat, but this is a really excellent song. It has an awesome energy to it. It has a great chorus, great riffs, a great Bruce Dickinson vocal. It's just really top notch, and I think it gives you a lot of hope that it's going to be a great album. And like I said, it's not particularly one of my favorite albums, but if we're just going off the opening tracks, this would give me high hopes of what was to come on the album. And yeah, I really like it a lot. It definitely trumped some songs that I expected to be higher on my list, just because when I was listening through these every time, I was like, this is a really good start to No Prayer for the Dying. So yeah, Tail Gunner for my number 3.
Yep. I would agree with that sentiment, because I like that song, but then the rest of it was like, yeah, I'm with you.
I don't hate the album. It's just not one of my favorites. I think even the worst Iron Maiden album is like a 5 or 6 out of 10.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not bad by any means. They just put a really high standard of quality with their content.
Yep. That they did. Ryan Murphy, what you got, brother?
So I took a different approach, as you guys know, but for your viewers, I took a different approach. Instead of just giving you my 3 favorite openers, I kind of tried to look at it as to what songs I think are, I don't know, that serve the album best as the opening track. So I didn't just pick my 3 favorite songs that are openers. So my criteria for that was tone setters, and kind of a prelude as to what's to come, what you're going to expect. So these 3, I shuffled these around all day, and since this topic came up, but If Eternity Should Fail from the Book of Souls is my number 3. I think with the the long 1.5-minute intro, it is a tone setter. It's kind of spoken word, right? It's kind of a prelude as to what you're gonna hear. And I don't think the times are on the back of this, but that's an 8-minute song, and the Book of Souls has quite a few, I guess, long songs on it. And I think just thematically, it's also a fantastic track as to what the rest of the album is going to be about. So yeah, it's a song that I absolutely love, but I think it very much serves the opening of that record.
I agree. That does. It's not an album I've spent a lot of time with, but I just recently I heard that song again. I'm like, wow.
Plus, it opened Legacy of the Beast in 2017 or 2018, I believe. It opened those shows, that set list, I think.
Not
Right,
in
a
Atlanta,
recent
but
tour.
yeah.
But sure. Okay.
That was 2019 when we saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, they started that off. That was Aces High. They started it with, right?
Yeah, it was the Book of Souls World Tour from 2016 and 17 that they used.
Okay, fair.
For that tour.
Fantastic opener for a concert. That's my point.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Yeah. Good start there, Ryan. Okay. Jim, what you got for us?
Me? It's me already? My goodness. So, I think really got more of it. I've done down a lot, which is why I really haven't been communicating much on the room. So it was rather ill, like basically all last week, and I've been training for a new job on top of that. So
Right.
So I can do a top two.
Okay. Okay.
So easy peasy, clear number two, Aces High. That not only is it a great track in its own right, it also sets the tone for the album beautifully. Like you can actually do that as 2 and 3 because it also opens the Live After Death.
Yeah.
That's kind of cheating.
It's hard to not imagine though that song without the speech though.
Without the Churchill speech on it, yeah.
You got almost. It's just hard, yeah. But yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah, love Aces High.
But number one has to be Ides of March.
Well, I was gonna say we'll get back to the number one part. We're just gonna go round and round. We'll come back to the next pick. So
sorry about that. Didn't mean to jump the gun.
You're good. You're good. Roger.
Me already? No, I'm kidding. I just want to steal his material. Not that I'm trying to copy Ben or anything, but mine is Where Eagles Dare or Dare. I can't even speak. Jeez. It's because I do it all the time for 8 hours out of the day. It's just weekend. Anyway, pretty much for the same reason Ben said. The drumming is some of the best out of anything, period. It's funny how I discovered this song too. I don't know if any of you remember this, but Chris Jericho covered this song in one of his Fozzy albums.
Yep, on Happenstance. Yeah, the second one.
That's kind of how I got heavier into my Iron Maiden because other bands covered them, and I'm like, well, I should definitely start digging into their catalog, and that's how my love started. Because of Chris Jericho's Fozzy.
Blame Chris Jericho. Put him on the list. Okay. All right. I'm gonna give Tyler Hagopian. He was also supposed to be on tonight, but he was not able to be on. He's from LP Tremors, another good channel for y'all to check out. His number 3, he didn't give any reasonings here, but his number 3 was Prowler. So just thought I would add Tyler's to the list. So for me, my number 3, I'm still trying to like figure out exactly where I was going to go because there's so many tracks here that are just so good. And I really liked so many of them, but I really think my number 3 here is going to be from Fear of the Dark. And I'm going to go with Be Quick or Be Dead. I just love how that song just hits you in the face. You know, it just comes at you with that heavy riff and Bruce just, yep. And Bruce just going, just screaming his head off on that song. I think it was a great opener to that album. Is it another one of my favorite Maiden albums? Not so much, but I do love Be Quick or Be Dead. So that's going to be my number 3. So with that said, Ben, what's your number 2?
My number 2, let's see, I'm editing my top 5 down to just picking 3 out of here. I really wanted to say If Eternity Should Fail, but I'm not, because that's an awesome song. And a little side note, that song was actually written for Bruce's forthcoming solo album, but when Steve heard it, he said, we're stealing this. I'll pay you for it, but we're taking it. And that's how it ended up on Book of Souls. That's why the whole Necropolis speech at the end makes no sense to the rest of the album, is because that was actually for a solo project. But my number 2, I'm going to go with Caught Somewhere in Time, from Somewhere in Time. This is completely written by Steve Harris. And in my notes, I have it is the perfect 80s song, period. The sound effects, the guitar synthesizers, the heavy chorus, the heavy gain. I'm sure it's probably a Charvel or Jackson guitar that they've got, perfect for the 80s system. Sets the theme for the entire album because the whole album sounds exactly like that song, the processing, everything. And if you dig deep into the whole 17 track catalog of Maiden album openers, it is the only one that features the signature Maiden gallop, is that song. And so for that reason, I put Caught Somewhere in Time as the number 2 of my top 3.
Great pick. Great pick. What you got, John? Let's get your number 2.
Okay. Well. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of having to go on the fly too. So I guess I'm gonna have to switch up my original lineup and go a little bit different. And I'm gonna go with
Do it.
Different World from Matter of Life and Death.
Great song.
Great song.
It's I love the album. It's one of my I think I put it down at least I think my top 5. It's my second favorite of the reunion albums. But in my notes, I got I love Adrian's solo as well. I like the finger tapping at the end of it. I don't know. It's just he doesn't do that very much. I've seen him do it a few times, but that one just it's not too long. It's not too much. It's perfect and it rounds up the solo pretty well. My favorite part about the whole song is I really love Bruce's like vocals. Like when he's doing the verse, he's kind of calm and collected. And then when he goes into the chorus, it's still calm. But when he goes into like that little bridge part and he just carries out the words, don't wanna be, it's perfect. I love it. I don't know. It's the way he carries, pardon the terrible singing I just did there, but no, I love it. It sounds amazing. It's one of the things that really drew me to that song. And I love the whole album itself. And the vocal harmonies during the chorus, when the tell me what you can hear, what you see. I like that, but it sounds better when they do it live, because with live, you got Adrian and Steve doing the harmonies. So that way you get all 3 of them singing it together, and it sounds amazing. And I understand why they didn't do a live album release for this tour, because they did the whole album in its entirety, and a whole lot of people didn't really like that too much. But at the same time, I kind of like the fact that they did that. And I kind of wish that I know some bands do it like every once in a while, but it's just, I like it that the fact that they did it for that tour. And that rumor has it is that they're wanting to do it for the Zenjutsu tour when they take that out on the road next year. And I hope they do it, because I may be one of the very few people, but I like Zenjutsu for what it is. I mean, is it perfect? No, but it's a solid release in my opinion. And yeah, so but to wrap it all up, Different World from Matter of Life and Death.
Great track. Great track.
And the fact that they played that whole album live on tour shows how passionate and strongly they felt about that album to start with.
True.
I agree. Ryan Gavalier, number 2.
All right. So for my number 2, I picked Be Quick or Be Dead from Fear of the Dark. Also another album that I'm not huge on by the band, but when it comes to this song as an opening track, it really delivers. I mean, it's an extremely heavy track, if not one of the heaviest Iron Maiden songs of all time. It's fast, it's riffy, it's got a really aggressive Bruce Dickinson vocal performance on it. One of his most growly vocal performances. It's pretty intense. So I think that when I look at this in terms of being an opener, it just throws you right in. Like I said with Tail Gunner as well, just being a really strong kind of heavy track. I think both of these serve the album as well as an opening track because of the fact that they show you who Iron Maiden is right at that moment of time. There's no questions. I mean, I love when they do real epic openers, especially on some of the newer albums, but I feel like some of these like cold opens where it's just really brutally heavy tracks tend to affect me more as a listener. So yeah, that's my number 2 today. It's Be Quick or Be Dead from Fear of the Dark.
All right. Very cool. Yeah. Love how that one gets you.
Mhm.
Okay. Ryan Murphy, number 2.
I went with Moonchild from Seven Son of a Seven Son.
Yes.
I think. Sorry, I don't know your names in the top left. I think John and Ben. Is that correct? One of you said about Caught Somewhere in Time. When it comes to Somewhere in Time, like that song kind of sounds a lot like the rest of the songs on that album. I feel the same way about Moonchild with Seven Son of a Seven Son. And like I said, first time through, tone setter and prelude as to what's to come. And I feel like this definitely fills the, prelude as to what's to come, in terms of, I mean, could you have opened it with like Seven Son of a Seven Son? Sure, maybe, but I just like the way this song builds, right? From opening, from the opening seconds. It just builds to a fantastic song. And actually, funny enough, this opening for this song was my walk-up music in softball a couple years ago. So I used that. But no, I like it. But I think just it just serves as a phenomenal opener. I think it's one of their best openers.
Yeah. And it begins that story that kind of weaves through the whole
Right.
Seventh Son album. So yeah,
Yep.
great choice. And another great album. Very, very, very good album from that time period.
Absolutely.
A cool thing about that album, real quick, that song, the growling vocals that Bruce used in that album, in that song, if he would have kept it at that for the next 2 albums, No Prayer and Fear of the Dark, they would have been much better received than they were, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I could see
maybe.
it.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, Jim.
I already gave you my number 2 when I gave you my number 3.
Okay.
Which I was say. But yeah, something that always kind of struck me is that even though they don't, even when they're not really doing concept albums, they basically have like one sound for an album. So even their non-concept albums are kind of concept albums.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's kind of an odd thing. There's usually not. There will usually be like 1 or 2 tracks that kind of change up from the rest of it, but it's usually you can put it on the beginning of the album, run it all the way through, and it's like, wait a second, which song are we on now?
Right. All right. So I think you were about to say you had gone with the Ides of March and Wrathchild as your other pick.
Well, that was and that's because Wrathchild is probably, even though it's the Diano era, it's probably my absolute favorite song of theirs.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to pick Ides of March leading into it.
Yeah. And it's a great little intro to Wrathchild when it just comes right in. So
yeah.
Good pick. Good pick. Roger.
Me, I'd
Yes.
pick Ace of Tie.
Okay.
What's more there to say? That's probably one of the greatest openers out of any band, period. I can't really think of any band that has a better song than that for their opening song on their album.
Yeah. Song just hits you in the face with once you get that opening, and then boom, they go right into that faster, much faster verse line, and then you get the Bruce trying to keep up with the speed of the song. It's just great solo, great, everything's great about that song. All right, good pick. Okay, Tyler's second pick falls in line with what Ryan Murphy had to say. He also he also picks If Eternity Should Fail as well. That was his number 2 song. So I just wanted to throw that there. So my number 2, I gotta go with Invaders. It, you talk about, yes, yeah, I mean, Bruce was with Samson, but this song introduced the world to Bruce Dickinson pretty much hands down. And again, a song never played live, and it should be, because it's a great song. And again, it just, but what we talked about how We're Eagles Dare introduced the world to Nico with that ridiculous drum beat. Well, this Invaders introduces the world to Bruce Dickinson and what we would hear from him with his voice throughout the next almost 40 years. 40 years, because that was 82 when that came out. Man, I'm getting old. Anyway, so that's my number 2. So now we are down to our number 1s. Number 1. Ben, what we got?
So while I agree that Aces High is wonderful and legendary, and it made, in my opinion, it made Iron Maiden the biggest metal band in the world, with Metallica right there up under them. But when that song came out, it skyrocketed them. I will always say the Wicker Man from Brave New World. It is hands down my favorite Maiden album ever. And people still call it the new era of Iron Maiden, but that was 22 years ago when this album came out. So just put yourself in the mindset that your favorite band had lost its two of its core members for the last decade. One of them a decade, one of them 6 years. And then they're all coming back. Plus Yannick Gers, who wrote Be Quick or Be Dead. They're all in the band together now. And then this is the first track that's released on their return album. You hear that straight up E power chord. I mean, it tears the house down, and it leads off the perfect album. Like JD said a while ago, there's not a weak track on the entire album. It's a fun song. It's just a straight Adrian Smith rocker. He tends to write like Wasted Years. It's just a straight in your face 4-minute rocker. And so a little quick side story about this song was there is a version of Wicker Man that was a cut unreleased track from Bruce Dickinson's Accident of Birth record. But the lyrics are different. It sounds completely different. You can hear it on YouTube now. But in my opinion, the Wicker Man is just the perfect way to reintroduce the lineup of Bruce and Adrian back with Steve and the boys to the world. So my number 1 pick, the Wicker Man.
Great pick. Great pick. Can't argue that. All right. What you got, John? What's your number 1?
All right. Well, funny enough, my number 1 is I think was it your number 2? Being Caught Somewhere in Time. I don't know. It's everything that Ben, I don't know. It feels like Ben somehow secretly stalked my notes without actually seeing them, because I think I have everything wrote down that he said. Except for most of the people in the chat know that Somewhere in Time is my favorite Maiden record. And I know it's just something about what Ben said, how it starts out with the synths, and it's like, what Iron Maiden doing synths? Didn't Bruce years ago before that say you can't have synthesizers in heavy metal? And they do it, but they don't overdo it. And I think it's look at another release that came out in the same year, looking at Judas Priest Turbo. Nothing against Turbo, I don't mind it, but it's too much in my opinion. But it's funny, going back, to kind of go off just for a quick little tangent, is it's funny when been doing my little digging into, it's funny to see that Maiden and Priest around in the same year come out with albums. I don't know if it's the same time, but it's weird that in the same year you got two of the biggest metal bands dropping an album, and it's fun. Both of them are good, but it's just something about one or the other one that kind of like kicks it up a little to like a notch more in that certain time. So in this one, if you were putting, in my opinion, the two together head to head, I'm obviously gonna go with Somewhere in Time every day. But yeah, but back to the point is, yeah, just caught Somewhere in Time. It's, I don't know, I guess now that I think about it, I guess some of my favorite Maiden songs just have that repetitive chorus, but it's at the point, it's not like repetitive enough where it's like annoying, like a lot of pop music today, where it's just, the whole, basically like 3/4 of the whole pop song is just the chorus.
Right.
And it's, Vince said it sets the album perfect. Like, what you're going into. It starts with a banger. And in my opinion, it ends with a banger, being Alexander the Great. Which that could be something, that could be a song for another topic down the road. But yeah, it's my number one because of my favorite album. So I figured it has to be my number one for that reason. So
Bingo.
Yeah.
All right. Can't argue with that. Ryan Gavalier, what you got?
All right. So my number one is Moonchild from Seventh Son of Seventh Son. I feel like this is the perfect Iron Maiden opener. It has the cool spoken word at the beginning. It slowly takes you in with a lot of atmosphere, a lot of mood to it. And then it's just a super heavy and awesome song. Like the production sounds amazing on it. Bruce sounds amazing vocally. All the guitars are great. Everybody instrumental is fantastic. And it just, for me, it takes you into Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. Not only does it take you into an album that you're listening to, but it literally brings you into the entire world of that album. And I think that it definitely was a song that was I would say a blueprint for a lot of what they did in later opening tracks, the way it's structured, the way that they had it as the opening to that album. And I absolutely love it. I think it's the best one. There might be songs I like more personally that were opening tracks, but when it comes to being the opening track, this one for me is the best one.
Great pick. Great song. Ryan Murphy.
A couple things I want to say before I give you my number one. Aces High, your thoughts on Aces High? Ben or John, I don't know which one of you is Ben or John. Again, I'm sorry, but one of you said, okay, one of you said, Aces High is great, and I agree. That's definitely up there for me, but I feel like that song is better suited as an intro live. Without the Churchill intro, I don't know, it doesn't really do it for me as an intro to that record. So anyways, my number one from Brave New World, of course, the Wicker Man. I think thematically, obviously, this is, a phenomenal first track for this record. This is probably my favorite Iron Maiden record too. So maybe there's a little bit of bias here, but I do think that I just think that, thematically and the chorus too. There you go. You got to tell me where to get that, because I need a Brave New World shirt. But I think, the chorus is repetitive, but the, like that adds to it, kind of supplements the chorus so that it doesn't become annoying. And I think I echo everything you said. Every track on this album is just a phenomenal track, and I think if anything is going to be a prelude to what's to come, if all the songs are fantastic, I mean, okay, maybe not fantastic, they're all really, really good songs, right? There are some fantastic songs, but they're all at least really good songs on this record. Just a phenomenal opener, and again, it's a great live opener too, but it just really, it sets a tone. It's thematically, it checks all the boxes for me.
And Nico's foot is going nuts in that song.
Yeah.
In the chorus, especially, it's almost it's almost like there's some double bass going on there, which I know he he's not a double bass drummer kind of
He
drummer.
did the whole thing with a single bass pedal.
Yeah. So I'm just like, man, his is like
And it's the perfect track. One of you guys said this too, but it's the perfect track for, you know, the new era that was, I guess, new era at that point. Perfect record and perfect opening track for a song released in the year 2002. I mean, if you think about it. So, yep.
I would agree with that. Okay, Jim, you got anything else? You got another pick there?
Second number one.
Well, I don't know, but so the weird part is that probably my favorite Maiden album is Number of the Beast, but I wasn't really sold on Where Eagles Dare. So that's it. If they'd have flipped it and actually had the title track as the intro to the album, that would have been an easy pick to put on the list.
Oh, right. Instead of Invaders. Right. Okay.
Exactly. I'm sorry. What did I say? Yeah,
You said,
Invaders.
yeah,
Sorry.
you said
Sorry.
Where Eagles Dare.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
my
I
bad.
could see that. I could see that.
But there's so many other great tracks on that album, but I just wasn't fond of that one. So,
Understandable. Okay. All right. Roger, what else you got? What's your top one?
Prowler is number one for me. That's actually the first Iron Maiden song I've ever listened to. I think it's probably one of their most catchiest songs. Even let's face it, the theme's horrible, kinda. It's about stalking a woman. Is Deanna not as good as a singer as Bruce? Wow. Yeah. But something about that era has always stuck with me for some reason. Maybe it's just because it was quicker, because thrash metal is my favorite genre, but I've always loved that song.
how many copies of Every Breath You Take did the Police sell for the exact same the exact same theme? So,
Man's got a point.
yeah.
I agree. But yeah, I mean, Prowler, I mean, that just welcomes the world to Iron Maiden pretty much right there. So okay, I'm gonna give Tyler's favorite here. His top one was Aces High. So my top one. It's this song has been said a couple of times. So for me, I mean, the song is like one of the first ones that I actually tried to start learning on guitar by ear and not having to read a tab book. And that song would be Caught Somewhere in Time for me. I as I've been going through this stuff, I've discovered I have had such a sincere soft spot for Somewhere in Time over these last 34 years that album's been out. There's just a lyrical feel to just about every song on that album. And it's so retrospective in some ways, the Wasted Years especially, but I mean, Caught Somewhere in Time, if you had the time to look, if you had the time to look,
Like you can read it like a book.
something like that. I mean, there was just some really deep lyrics in a lot of that stuff. And the album just resonated so much with me. And the B-sides to like the B-side to Wasted Years was a great track for me. And I liked the B-sides from Stranger in a Strange Land as well. But I mean, I just have such a deep soft spot for Somewhere in Time. So for me, it has to be it's got to be Caught Somewhere in Time. So oh yeah, there you go.
Technically and emotionally and lyrically, Somewhere in Time is got to be hands down their best album, because they sound like an exhausted, tired band after the World Slavery Tour. I mean, and the loneliness of the long distance runner, they are the long distance runner in that scenario. They just came off of this huge tour, you know, Stranger in a Strange Land, they're strangers in their own home after being on that tour. It just makes sense when you look at it like that. It's such, they sound exhausted, you know.
So, okay. So, anybody have any honorable mentions that they want to throw in here?
I've got one.
Okay.
Well,
All right, go ahead.
yeah, so I've talked about all of my 5 in some capacity, but my honorable mention has got to be the 11-minute epic, "The Sign of the Cross" from the X Factor album. I love that song, and it's one of my favorites. And I love Blaze. I love his 2 albums he did with the band to some extent, like everybody else does. You know,
Sure.
The Klansman is one of my favorite songs ever. And so is "The Sign of the Cross." However, as good a job as it does to set up the dark, brooding theme of that entire X Factor album, because that's a very dark album, it's too long, in my opinion, to be an opener. That's the only thing I have to say is you don't lead off with an 11-minute song as your opener. You keep it 4 minutes or under and set the theme for the album.
Yep, I could see that. Unless you're Yes.
That's true. That is true. That's true.
I don't get
They don't get the
Or
reference.
Iron Butterfly.
Or Iron Butterfly.
Yeah.
I'll give you one that I considered based on my criteria, both fitting thematically and fitting as to what's coming. That's Senjutsu, right? I mean,
Mhm.
from the new record. Yeah, I mean, samurai, I guess, themed, you know, and all that. I mean, it's both, you know, lyrically and thematically, it literally sets the tone for what, you know, what. And I think it was Bruce said in an interview that he said, so yeah, I can't quote it, but something to the degree that they were really proud of the Book of Souls, but they're even prouder that with Senjutsu, and you know, they think it's going to even rock more. And I think they're, personally, I mean, I think they're parallels, but both have fantastic openers. I mentioned If Eternity Should Fail, but yeah, I mean, I think the title track is a phenomenal opener that nobody mentioned, and I think maybe just because it's so new, it's still so fresh, but I think it's a very underrated opener, I guess, if you know, we're talking really good openers.
Right.
Yeah, I think the more prog direction that Maiden has gone into in the last 5 or 6 years, or especially since The Final Frontier, has kind of lost some of the fan base to their opening tracks and whatnot. But to the ones that still, you know, support Maiden no matter what, you gotta love it. And the war drum beat of Senjutsu, to me, that just makes the song.
Yeah, Bruce coming in to meet the warning, the sound of the drums, and it's just I was gonna yeah, good job. I was actually gonna call that one for an honorable mention. So
He
good job
already
for that,
he
Ryan.
already
So
had the album in his
I
hand.
did. So you constantly might as well show it. So just for some fun, I'm gonna go with Wildest Dreams from Dance of Death. I mean, I know that album artwork is terrible. It's awful.
Steve liked the prototype.
But it's overall, like I said, it's a good album. I like the start, you know.
Good track.
Like I said, again, it goes back to that same repetitive chorus thing that I like. I guess it's just I love listening to complicated music, but sometimes with Maiden, it's just like, give me the complicated music, but just give me the simplistic like choruses. And I'm because driving down the road, just shouting at the top of my lungs, might not know the rest of the words, but when that chorus hits, yeah. So I used to have a bit of a higher opinion on Dance of Death, but there was a podcast that Ben showed me, the Talking Maiden podcast, and listening to the two guys talk about the Dance of Death album kind of made me rethink how I feel about it. And it's a good album, but it's it's sandwiched in between two fantastic albums to me. But I do like the opener. You know, the title track is good, except it's got parts of it that I like. But yeah, Wildest Dreams.
Ryan?
Yeah. So I did have a few honorable mentions that I'm just gonna run through. I'm not really gonna go into details about them, but one was Wildest Dreams. Also, I literally had the album in my hand.
I've had all mine just sitting on standby, just waiting.
Yeah. Then, of course, Aces High, one of my favorite Maiden songs, but I didn't think it was the best opener either. Let's see here. I had Prowler, which I do think is a really excellent opener, but I think there's better ones. And then my last one was Invaders, just because it absolutely kicks you right in the ass right as you start this album off. And it does introduce the world to Bruce Dickinson. So yeah, those are mine.
I just want to say two things real quick. Different World definitely was up there for me. Fantastic track, and I just didn't think it was as good of an opener as everything that I mentioned. But I feel like my love for Aces High diminished because when I plug my iPhone into my car, every time it plays Aces High first, just because alphabetically it's A, and it got to the point where it got not the song didn't get annoying, but just that got annoying. So it kind of brought, I know it's so random, but it just got to the point where I kind of got sick of it. So
Try shuffle.
yeah, I've tried, it doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, that's like I said, I that's a fantastic track. It is a really good opener. I just same thing with Different World. Just they're up there. Just didn't make my top three.
Right. All right. Jim, Roger, you guys got any other honorable mentions to throw in there?
Again, sort of my comment about Number of the Beast. I wish they would have flipped the sides on Peace of Mind, because the Trooper would have been an amazing opener for anything, and or if they'd skipped it and gone straight to Revelations would have been an amazing opener.
All right, Roger.
I'm pretty sure I might be the only person on the planet that likes this song, but I really dug Final Frontier.
Funny enough, I was actually going to give that a mention. Fun enough you say that. Well, take out the first 4-minute little intro drum.
I was wondering if somebody...
That's the part I like. I like.
Let's build a 4-minute build up to a 4-minute song.
I really was wondering if anybody was going to give that any love.
I thank you, Roger, for at least giving that one, because in the back of my mind, I was thinking, do I want to put that one out? Because like I said, it's, let's see, 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
Somebody bet Steve Harris $5 that he couldn't do a 4-minute crescendo, and he said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, so the only song of the openers that did not receive any love was Future Real. And that's actually not a bad song.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
But did it make my top 5? No.
No. It's probably the second best song on the whole album.
Well, yeah. Tyler had 2 others. He mentioned his number 5 was Senjutsu, and his number 4 was Be Quick or Be Dead. For me, if I was going to have any other honorable mentions, and I had just written them down on my list, and I can't read my chicken scratch. Oh, Wildest Dreams. That was going to be one of my my honorable mentions. And I had what was the other one I had picked? I can't remember now. I can't read my chicken scratch. So yeah, I think probably was going to be Different World for me. Because I love Different World as well. I like Jim, though. I do love Wrathchild, and really it's not fair for me not to say Wrathchild. Because that's also a great track too. But they're just all of these songs. There's a lot of good stuff in all of them, and they just lead into some, some good and some maybe not so good, but for the most part, there's a lot of strong stuff here. So,
Yeah.
man,
It's funny, like you take the entire discography of this whole band. Was it 17 albums.
Mm-hmm.
You're guaranteed with this band at least a good opener. It may not always be solid, but it's always a good fun time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think, to me at least, granted the album overall, like the whole Virtual Wheel thing, it's with my only defense with Virtual 11 is they tried the dark thing and it didn't work. So they were like, let's retool this and let's go back to what made us Maiden in the first place. So you can hear the Maidenness in these songs, the bass heavily, and stuff like that. But the album does suffer from you can tell that you can just tell that Steve was just like, let's do this. Let's go back to, the way we used to do this. But it's like, okay, and you're doing Maiden, but you're putting I've lost track, Blaze in a spot where I think Bruce might have made these songs a tad bit better, in my opinion. But yeah, because I think like with X Factor, it worked with Blaze because the music fit Blaze's vocal style. Like if you listen to his solo work, which is fantastic, I love Blaze's solo work. It's out of all the three singers that's been the head of Maiden, that's recorded wise, not before record, that's different topics. But out of the three, in my opinion, I think Blaze has the best solo work. I love Bruce to death, I do, but he's got too much cheesy tongue-in-cheek lyrics. I mean, I do love the last two albums, but the couple before, like the two from the 90s, I'm not the biggest fan. I've listened to it, but it's not all the way through because I can't
to Picasso.
Yeah, I can't get into it very much. But Blaze, and to go back to the whole was it a few of these Brave New World songs were written with Blaze still in the band.
Yeah.
So like in some parallel alternate universe out there, could you imagine that album, but with Blaze?
There is a track, early track of Blood Brothers with Blaze floating around.
Yeah, I feel like that would. I mean, I like I said, it's. I like the little tangent is I mean Blaze, he was good in the band, but it was just he was good doing his songs. Him doing Bruce songs, not so much. The only one I think that he actually was able to do a really good job with was it Afraid to Shoot Strangers? Mm-hmm. I think he sang that one a lot better than Bruce did. That's just my opinion. I think he sounds better on that. But because that song is a slower tempo that kind of goes more with Blaze's vocal performance, because he sings in kind of like a lower register than what Bruce does.
Right.
But I like I said, I like the Blaze era. There are a lot of it I do like, but there are parts, that it's like, it kind of feels like, okay, you can tell that Steve was way too heavy in the mixing and producing process of it. And if he would have shortened a couple tracks down, retooled them a little bit better, I think people would maybe have a little bit of a better opinion on Virtual 11 than they do. That's just me.
I just real quick, because I don't want to take up too much of your time with this point, but I think that those albums are not that bad. He's really the one part of them I can't get into. I just don't like Blaze's voice. Like I've listened to those albums a lot of times, but it's just, I don't know. I just don't like his tonality, that kind of like
If Steve would have been willing to down tune the instruments to Blaze, like half a step down or even go to drop D or something, it would have been much better. But trying to play in standard tuning, for Blaze, it doesn't fit. Blaze is a baritone. It doesn't fit.
It just feels awkward to me trying to listen to those songs. And then you have him with this really brooding, deep voice over these like bright these bright compositions. It's just kind of weird to me. I don't know. I can't do it. They're not bad albums. I can listen to them, but he's always been the one weak link to me on them.
There's certain songs like Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, he was very powerful on, or Afraid to Shoot Strangers. But him singing, Wasted Years or The Trooper or Run to the Hills, it's a nightmare, and that's why they had to cancel a lot of shows on the tour, because he blew his vocal cords out. He couldn't do it. He couldn't hit those Bruce notes. Nobody can, not except Bruce,
Yeah.
Or there's a guy out there. He did these little things on YouTube, like if Bruce sang these certain tracks. I can't think of what the guy's name is, but he went on to form a band called Icon of Sin. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but if you listen to this guy's recorded audio, it sounds like you're listening to Bruce. Like I don't know how this guy did, but he somehow has trained his voice to sound. It's like, I've got the album shuffled on my phone. So, and I've got Bruce's solo work. So I know what's a Maiden song, but if I hear a song that's by them, I'm like, I know this isn't Maiden. Is this a Bruce solo work? But I actually look at it, and it's like, they're called Icon of Sin, and their singer sounds so much like Bruce. It's ridiculous. It's like, it's not 100% spot on. Like, you could tell the English obviously isn't his first language, but the tone in which he sings it and the pitch, it's, and it's not, it's got like the modern metal sound to it, but it's got like I said, I don't know what the guy's name is. I stumbled upon him on YouTube, and then I heard he had a band, and I was like, oh, okay. And it, like I said, it sounds pretty. I just basically listened to it because it's just like, wow, there's another guy out there that sounds like Bruce and just somehow can just carry it, and just, if someone that's not too well into Maiden but know who they are, but don't know like their entire discography like we do, they could potentially get it confused, because it's got that sound, it's modern, but it's kind of got a Maiden sound to it. So I think Icon of Sin, just, if you want to, just check them out. They're not too bad.
All right.
nice.
All right, y'all. Well, we just gave you our top 3 Iron Maiden album openers. So, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Check it out. See what you think. Before we go, I know the 2 Ryans have channels. What do you guys got to plug? Ryan Gevler, go. I'll let you go first. What you got to plug?
So I won't go through my whole 10-minute spiel just because I'm on your channel today, but I will say there's a few things I got coming up. So the 5th, at 8 p.m. I have a Prince best of compilation. We'll each be picking 5 songs, make a 15-song compilation. On the 9th, I'll be chatting about cassettes with Todd Evans. On the 12th, I will be talking about Miles Davis with Peter Kerr and Armando. We'll be doing Bitches Brew versus On the Corner. On the 13th, we have a Judas Priest best of compilation video. Let's see here. On the 18th, I have Scorpions best of, I believe it was. Let me double check here. That was the 18th. Yeah, so that'll be on the 18th at 8:30. Then I have also on the 18th a Jimi Hendrix collection video with Marco from the Contrarians. So that's everything I have coming up right now on the channel. It's Ryan's Final Destination. Make sure to check it out and subscribe. There's also a Facebook page, an Instagram, and a Twitter, all named the same thing.
Yep. He's got a lot of great content, so y'all check him out. Ryan Murphy, what you got coming up with Rush fans and whatever else you got going on over there?
Yeah, I won't plug everything because we'd be here all night. But our YouTube channel is Rush Fans, all one word. And if we welcome any new guests. So Rush Roundtable at rushfans.net. If you want to come on, one of our main series is Rush Roundtable. We talk weekly about Rush. So yeah, come on over, check it out. We're also on Instagram at Rush Fans and Twitter at _Rush Fans. But come check out our YouTube channel.
All right.
Fun stuff.
All right. And we just got to get Ben and John to put something together and get them to start talking, doing a channel or something. And
I've thought about it, or like I said, if I'm kind of on and off, with stuff. So I mean, if there's anything you guys like to, I would like to, if you got anything, like I said, we got the group chats. You can
we'll
either
do something.
send me one through the,
Yeah.
Okay.
YouTube is a
Absolutely.
lot of work. You gotta be dedicated. So yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of work.
That's what I just want to say. I figured I can jump on, do discussions like this because, like I said, I full-time job and
Yep.
like I said, I weird work schedule. I'm down to jump on like discussions like this. I can
Very
I can
cool.
do something like this.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Could those of you with pages put links in the chat?
When I go to
Yeah.
post this, which I won't post this till tomorrow, but I'll put links in the description when this hits YouTube. So yeah, you'll be able to check all this out. Roger, I know you're just kind of like joining in on stuff too. So, but
No, people have been telling me to get a podcast for years, and no.
he's
Hey,
just
video games.
he's just newly
streamed for a
married, for
bit.
God's sakes, and no. But all right. With that said, y'all, thank you guys for doing this. This has just been a blast for Ben, for John, for Ryan Gavalier, for Ryan Murphy, for Jim Morris, for Roger Sararis. I'm going to get his name right one of these days. I'm John Clauser. Up the irons. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.